Hey Shannon, how are you doing today?
Been a busy one, but I'm good.
I love it. It's been pretty busy for me too. I don't know if you got my text from earlier, but I was like, I'm on. And then I saw notification. I was like, why isn't she on here? Okay. And then I saw a notification like 10 minutes before 12. It was like podcast with Shannon. I was like, what the heck did my brain do? Like, I totally just thought it was 12 and it wasn't 12. So I don't know what I did there, but it was like at 11:30. I was supposed to start prepping the notes for the podcast, but I finished early, so my brain just got it mixed up. So like I don't know, it was funny. So I just want to let you know in case you saw my text from like 30 minutes before. So
I don't think I did. Was it on Slack or my phone?
it was. I deleted it though because I was like, oops.
Oh, oh yeah, no, I had another Zoom call right before this, so I didn't see
Okay,
it.
cool.
You're all good. I'm
No
glad I did
worries.
see it because otherwise I would have been like, oh my God, wait, what? Like, what?
Scrambling to get on.
Yeah. Like,
You're cool. You're cool. Well, what's up, Shannon? Welcome to the Relentless Pursuit podcast. I'm super excited to get into our topic for today. Pretty much what we're going to be going over today is, as we talked about before, like why it's important to go into more than just macros, like going into your hormones and gut health, and what effect just focusing on macros and not taking anything else into account can have on your body. And you have a really interesting story when it comes to this topic. Welcome to the Relentless Pursuit podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Vassar, an online strength and functional nutrition coach, helping high achieving women optimize their metabolism to get strong, lean, and healthy while healing their gut, hormones, and mindset. In these short episodes, you'll learn how to build a relentless mindset, fuel your body properly, train smart, optimize your lifestyle, and create a sustainable routine to heal your body and see incredible results that last. Whether you're new to the gym, need to heal your body from weight loss resistance, or just want to level up your routine, I'm your girl. So grab a cup of coffee and get cozy. Let's dive in. So I'm super excited to get into it today. But first, I'd really like for my audience to learn a little bit more about you. So if you could give me a quick introduction about you, that would be wonderful.
yeah, well, my name is Shannon Salge, and yeah, I'm so excited to talk about this topic because, we'll get into it, but I have been in the health industry for, over a decade, but like a lot of coaches, I'm seeing more, there's an evolution, right? Many, many years ago, it was all about macros and, now it's transitioning to a little bit more education on hormones, gut, like how it all plays into a factor. But, I was born and raised in LA. Now I live in nice and cold Detroit, Michigan. And, I've been in the wellness industry, as I said, for a decade. And I don't know, fun fact is I'm a triplet. So like,
Whoa,
I know
that's cool.
my random fact of the day, but I learned a lot about estrogen because we're all girls growing up.
I love
But
it.
yeah, I guess what else do you want to know about me? I've owned my own health and fitness coaching business for about, I guess, going on 4 years now. Before that, I was a manager at Lifetime Fitness, and I own or a manager Pilates studio as well as personal training. And that really is what kind of catapulted me into wanting to start my own business because I saw such a huge gap in the industry and in-person
Mm,
business versus online. And, just I only work solely with women. And I just saw so many people not knowing how to train women and how to address their unique cycles. Their mindsets are much different. We're not little men, and also just lack of accountability and just knowledge that you were able to have in a one-on-one session. It's like you have to cram so much in 55 minutes, and that's
yeah.
people's time,
I was
so
an in-person coach too, so I totally get that. It was rough. I was like, just you're not serving people as much as you can,
yeah,
online. So
100%. So, and, just being able to work with so many more people than just, Lifetime's amazing, but there's a barrier of entry even to join the gym because it's so expensive. And, not everybody wants to do that, especially post COVID. I mean, a lot of people don't want to go to a gym anymore. And so I get that. So yeah, that's, I guess, my, quick little nutshell.
I love it. And what type of clientele do you help?
I work solely with women, primarily dealing with clients that have been struggling with metabolism for a long time, who have been chronic dieters, under eating, over exercising. Not all of our clients are like that, but a good majority are. And we work a lot with clients with downregulated hormones, gut issues, thyroid imbalances. So I like to say I blend functional health with traditional macros and workouts because I do still enjoy macros and I still do very much enjoy, workout programming. And I think that it's in this industry, people skew really far one way or the other. It's either like all about functional health and like macros don't matter and, you know,
Yeah.
workouts, we don't do any of them. And for certain clientele, absolutely that could be the way. But then there's also people on the other side that's like, macros are the only way and workouts, and we're just going to kill you till, your body tells me no. And so I blend the two, right? I blend that functional health, I blend those workouts, I blend, for some of our clients, macro training. And so that way you really get this full rounded program, focusing on really just healing the body on all fronts, right? And not just focusing on one thing until the other part breaks,
Yeah, definitely. I am super excited to take you onto this podcast because we actually have a very similar niche. Like, I help women with downregulated metabolisms as well, pretty much do the same thing, integrating functional health into like macros. So this conversation will be super interesting to get into today. So I'm super excited. Let's see here. I already gave a little introduction to the topic, but pretty much what we're going to be hopping into first is giving people an overview of your journey. Because the reason that I want to get into this and dive into your journey is because I know there are so many people nowadays who are, they're struggling, they have these weird symptoms, they don't understand what's going on, they have low energy, it's hard to get out of bed, maybe they have these like weird pains that they don't know what's going on. And your journey will, like, learning about your journey will really help them understand, like, oh, I don't just need to take Advil and suddenly I'll get better. There is more that I can do. There is something that I can do to help heal my body. So learning your journey will help people really discover that. So hopping right into it, I want to start at the beginning.
Yeah.
What got you started in your health and fitness journey?
Yeah. So, I was a professional dancer, and I started actually at 13 years old. I was always an overachiever. So I was so busy. I was in high school at the time. Like I was killing my body, killing myself in school, trying to get straight A's, was vice president of my class, started, on this professional, I got invited as a professional dance company. I was definitely the youngest by at least a decade. And I started noticing my body start to get like very achy and not recover really well. Now everyone's like, well, of course, you're overtraining. Maybe, but that's when I started noticing things were off. It was pretty early on. And so, that got me into exercise, body composition, just learning a bit more. My mom was also really into health and fitness, which helped a lot. She was always doing, something on the nutritional front or working out. So I kind of gained some interest. But then in college, so high school, I was still dancing very regularly. In college, I knew I wanted to help people. I was really injured, like all throughout high school. And it was just none of the injuries made sense. And this will tie into my story a little bit later, but I was just always inflamed. I would be in physical therapy. No, nothing really helped. And so it was just kind of like, well, stop dancing. Like that was just the answer. I'm like, no. So I go to college. I'm like, I'm not going to be able to dance because I'm pretty injured. I didn't really know what I want to do. I thought I wanted to go to vet school and I wanted to be a sports medicine doctor. Well, I had some really gnarly experiences with sports med doctors that totally turned me off from the profession. So I was like, well, let me just go do a dance audition. I ended up getting the scholarship for it, ended up getting a scholarship for exercise science. So I ended up going to Indiana University is where I went. And that's where I really started honing in on exercise program design. I have 2 majors in kinesiology. So that's like a little bit of my background. I'm a huge component for education, but it is definitely not the end all be all. So I learned some great things, but it wasn't until I got into the profession that I realized how much gap there was. And so then I actually joined a professional dance company in Michigan. That's why I moved here. It was a national touring company. I did it for 1 year and my body said, you're done. And I officially quit dance when I was 25, I think. That's when I joined Lifetime and I became a personal trainer. I got my Pilates certification because I was going to go to physical therapy school. And so I was going to use that for kind of more of a rehab setting and work with, people recovering from post-op. Yeah, I wanted to be on more of the proactive side instead of the reactive side of things. So I ended up not going to therapy school and doing more of the personal training route. And that's what got me into Lifetime. Ended up working my ranks up there, becoming manager, and then started my own business. So that's, yeah, a little bit of what got me started in health.
I love it. So when we were talking about before, you were talking about your journey with bodybuilding and how that kind of like launched yourself into a ton of little issues that showed up later. So I'd like to move into the timeline of when you were prepping for bodybuilding and winning bodybuilding shows.
Yeah. Okay. So this is where the gnarliness happened. So for anybody listening, because you might be in the same spot as I was literally wearing myself thin. I was doing great at my career, but I always felt like crap. I was literally on like 3 shots of espresso or a monster drink a day. Thought that was pretty normal. Like I was like, oh, it's fine. Like I'm working long hours. I was working out 5, 6 days a week, and doing some cardio in addition to that. I was just kind of killing myself. And I was like, you know what? I'm not seeing the changes I want to see. It didn't make sense. I was like, what the hell is happening? So naturally, instead of trying to get to why also at this time, I wasn't experiencing periods at all. I thought that was normal. My doctor said, yeah, sometimes it happens. Just skip your pill. We're just going to do every 3 weeks and just go into a new pack. And I was like, oh, okay, that's the answer. Started having really bad bloating issues. And naturally, instead of figuring those out, I was like, you know what will help? Let me hire a coach to do a bodybuilding show. So, I was already not in a great place. And this is where a lot of our clients come to us and then they want to go and do a deficit. And I'm like, it might work on the front end, but then what you have to clean up on the back end takes so much longer. So I hired a coach and I went to train for a bodybuilding show, and it was a bikini show. I went on to win the show and become nationally qualified. That was my one and only show. Because what happened was I won the show in April. 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, my joints started becoming so inflamed, I couldn't walk. And I'd always had some back and hip issues, but this was like really bad. My stomach started getting really bad. I wasn't able to actually eat anything. My stomach hurt so bad. And I put on 15 pounds in 2.5 weeks. And my inflammation got so bad, I had to walk with a cane. I was on about 3 or 4 leaves a day just to walk into work with a cane. Actually, I didn't use a cane at first. I was using a foam roller so people wouldn't ask questions. So I was using a foam roller to like walk around because that was like a little more normal, right, in the gym. But I was using it for support. And it wasn't until at the time I had an 86-year-old client whose wife had passed, and he gave me his dead wife's cane. And so that's still the cane I have to this day because I refuse to buy a new one because I'm like, I'll never need this again. So that is when everything went to crap. I don't know how much you want me to get into the story, but it was a long journey to figuring out what the issue was from there. So
You can talk about, I definitely would love to, you don't have to go into like whatever details you're not comfortable with sharing, but definitely going into like the juicy details if you want, because it will help people really be able to identify this themselves if they're having it or if they're having some sort of similar symptoms. Obviously, hopefully they don't have the same diagnosis you have, but these symptoms can still be really common for many individuals. So I'd love to like get into like what it was like common symptoms that you had, and then like a brief overview of the journey that you had to take in figuring out what was wrong.
yeah. First of all, I'm an open book, so I literally like you can ask me anything. I do not care.
Perfect.
Social media wasn't really around when I was younger, and like especially not to the extent as now. So like I felt very alone, especially being a young, fit female. I was not taken seriously by any of my doctors. And that is again what anybody listening might be dealing with is kind of gaslit. Like, oh, well, you're fit and you're clearly healthy. All of your lab work is like, I never had one blood work that was off. Not one. I was having chronic diarrhea. I was having chronic bloating. My stomach would look 6 months pregnant. I would go through periods of, well, I would have no periods at all, or I'd have periods every 2 weeks. I couldn't walk. Like when I say couldn't walk, I couldn't get out of bed on my own. At some point, my husband had to put on my socks and shoes for me because I couldn't do that. I was having horrible brain fog that I didn't really realize at the time till it was gone. I was like, oh, wow, this is how my brain should work, right? Horribly fatigued. I mean, I would have to take naps throughout the day, and that was just so unlike me. My hair was thinning, my nails were so brittle, and I just thought, well, my nails have always been brittle. My hair's always been thin. That's just normal. I've always been tired. Like, that's just the way I've always been. The thing that really alarmed me was obviously the pain. Like, it was horrific pain. That's I can't really describe it more than that. Now, I will say, at 13 years old, I went to a rheumatologist to get some blood work done. And my mom's uncle had something called ankylosing spondylitis. And so I was tested for the gene marker for ankylosing spondylitis, and I was positive for it. Now, I said I was a triplet at the beginning. The interesting part is one of my sisters has a gene marker, the other sister does not. But I was the only one exhibiting symptoms, because a lot of people can have the marker and never, something has to actually activate it. With any autoimmune stuff, like, what people don't realize is there's usually a trigger. This can be an accident, this can be an injury, this can be an infection. We're seeing, unfortunately, a lot of this with like COVID. That's just the straw that breaks the camel's back for a lot of people, that, cascades this inflammatory response. So for me, it was the bodybuilding show, and well, I didn't actually say this is my fault. I was so restricted. All I want to do is eat sugar. Like, I'd never been that restricted in my life. So all I did was eat crap for 2 weeks, like donuts. And for some reason I craved baklava, and I didn't work out.
Good.
I didn't first diet properly out of this. I just binge ate, which, I had problems with binge eating a little bit beforehand. So I just binge ate everything. So yeah, that contributed to my weight gain.
I see.
It was trauma for my body, was that shift, the sugar, the restriction, and it just caught up to me. And, for some people, it's more of a gradual, like, catch up. For me, it was like I hit a train. So, anyways, I had known about ankylosing spondylitis, and I knew that I had this, but the journey to get diagnosed was 4 or 5 years from there. From the original diagnosis was 15.
Wow.
And it was typical more in the male population. And what happens is, if you don't treat it, your spine can fuse together. So that's kind of what the ankylosing means: fusion. Spondylitis is inflammation of your spine. So I went to doctors, and all my blood work came out fine. Like, I couldn't walk, and my inflammation markers were still normal. One doctor just told me, touch your toes to test how stiff I was, and I could do that perfectly. She's like, see, you're fine. Not kidding. I was like, well, I was a professional dancer. Like, of course I have like a pretty decent stretch in my hamstrings. So I went to, and I'm going to speed this timeline up a lot. If you have more questions, I will absolutely deep dive, but it is a lengthy journey.
Yeah, for sure.
But I went to 3 rheumatologists because I wasn't taken seriously. The only thing I was told that I could, first of all, no one wanted to diagnose me. They thought I was fine. I was referred to a therapist because people thought I was lying. I was making this up.
Oh my goodness.
I was told my blood work turned out fine. I could try medication. So I was originally given methotrexate. I didn't end up taking it because I deep down was like, no. And I went to 4 GI specialists, and I was like, hey, you know what? This diarrhea is not normal. This bloating is not normal. I was having chronic gastritis, upper stomach pain that actually ended me in the ER at one point. And all I was told was take Pepsid, just take, not Pepsid, Nexium. So I was put on a PPI. And I was not told, and this is a lot of our clients too, like how many of them are on these, and it's just like forever, just like, oh, I'm just going to take this forever. Because that's the answer. So I was just told to take that. So, okay. I wanted a colonoscopy. I was denied. And until my 4th doctor. And this is really crazy because I was horrifically in pain. All of these symptoms. I couldn't eat anything at one point. I did an autoimmune protocol. I was doing a low FODMAP diet. I was doing a SIBO protocol. Like I was doing all these protocols of restriction. And a lot of our clients have probably come to us doing all this restrictive diets, you know? And
Yeah.
I kept getting worse. I kept getting sicker. And so finally I asked for a female GI doctor because I was like, well, maybe this woman will be able to like hear me out a little bit more. Like, I don't mind men, but I was just like, something wasn't like they weren't getting it. So the woman, I described my symptoms, I'm in tears in the office. She goes, I have something for you. And she goes to her desk, and I can't make this up. She pulls out a coupon, and it's a $2 off coupon for CVS for, or it wasn't CVS, but it was for a peppermint pill. It was a peppermint pill. I was like, and I bawl. And she's like, oh God, what? I was like, you think that's going to solve my problem? Like, you think that that's the answer? I was like, I'm not leaving until I get a colonoscopy. And then we can take next steps from there. So I ended up having polyps in my colon. I was 27. I was 27 at the time. Yeah. So I'm glad I got that done, but that was only through literally advocating for myself and being like, I'm not leaving until this happens. I was just have IBS, right? It's just IBS. I'm like, okay, well, just IBS has been happening for the last 10 years for me. I was taking I was taking so many probiotics. I was doing all the supplements. Nothing helped. Turns out I wasn't absorbing shit, but, so, I went to the GI doc. I was in physical therapy. I went to the chiropractor. I was at the rheumatologist. I went to 3 OB-GYNs because the first one, all she did was switch my birth controls around, right? And she didn't
That'll fix all your issues, right?
Yeah. She's like, that's the problem.
Like, oh, this is what it is. You need a different one. It's like,
Exactly. And I knew that wasn't the answer, but I did it because I was like,
yeah,
anything the doctor said, I was like, okay, I will do it, but I know it's not the answer because I don't know what else to do at the time. Right. And that's where
you'll try
that, right? Like, hey, I know something's wrong. My doctor's telling me this. I know it's not going to help, but I don't have a choice. Like I felt helpless. I would call my husband bawling, feeling like one doctor, it was a pain specialist doctor. I'll never forget because he made me feel the worst I've ever felt in my whole life. I wanted to get a prescription for Celebrex, which was like, it's just an NSAID, like, but I just like a lead wasn't cutting it anymore. And I needed something to go into work. Like, I was like, I have to work. And so he told me I needed a psych eval and that I was making this up. And I just start crying. And he goes, I don't know what you want from me. And I was like, I don't know what I want from you. I just want an answer. I just like, and he was like, there's nothing wrong with you. So I go to 2 pain specialist doctors and I get SI joint injections. I get numbed. Actually, they hit my sciatic nerve or my nerve. This is 2 weeks before my wedding, actually. So my whole leg went numb for about 8 hours. That was fun. Didn't help. The injections didn't help.
oh my.
This was 2 weeks before my wedding. I was like, I need to walk down the aisle. What do I do? So I go and get a prednisone injection into my butt to just get inflammation down. And that was where I was at. And I was pretty much left with no answers. That was it. And I didn't understand how all of this integrated together. And so can I move on with the story a little bit?
Yeah, 100%.
So, obviously there's a lot of trauma with all of this, right? Not being heard, not understanding, trying to fix it on my own. And I can't tell you, I'm sure people listening to this, I tried thinking I can do it on my own. Like, I'm in the health industry. I'm healthy. Like, why can't I figure this out on my own? And so I wish I would have invested sooner. So my chiropractor started getting into functional medicine. And he suggested I do a stool test. It's a GI map test. Do you run any of those GI maps, or are you familiar with them?
Yeah.
So he suggested I do stool testing. And I was like, I got this. I can figure this out. It's fine. Because I would go through periods where my body would be okay. And then I would go periods like literally within 4 days of each other, I'd be okay to not being able to walk. And it was just like this, it was crazy. And so I never knew how I was going to feel. So he suggested it for almost a year. And I was like, nope, I'm going to figure it out with my doctors first, right? Like how many of our clients are like, I'm going to go to the next doctor. The next doctor is going to have the answer. The next
Yeah.
doctor, this one didn't, but I'm going to get blood work done and that's going to solve my issues. And then when you don't get the answer, you feel heartbroken and defeated. So you go to another doctor. You're like, this was referred by my friend. They know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And it was that cycle. And so I get put on biologics, which are, for my autoimmune disease. And I'm going and getting intravenous medication. And I will say at the time, it was a godsend. It allowed me to walk again. It allowed me to get my inflammation down enough to just have a little bit more predictability, but it didn't solve my issue. I was still like the gut issues, the hormone issues, still absolutely a thing. And it made me so tired. Like I would have to nap every single day. And it wasn't even like, oh, I'm tired. It was, you sit your ass down now. You can't do a damn thing. Like it was like some of you listening, like understand the difference between tired and true fatigue. Like it's not the same.
It's so different. It's so hard to explain too for people who've never experienced it.
Absolutely. It is literally like you don't have the option to do anything. And the only other time I've lived with that was my first trimester of my pregnancy was like a whole, like, I like to, like, I always say like my pain is my purpose. Like having lived through this, I can help so many other people. But like, same with like pregnancy, like I've coached so many pregnant women and postpartum, but until you've gone through that like pregnancy fatigue, you don't understand what it's like. But
Yeah.
so, I'm on the biologic drugs and I'm like, oh, this will solve my issues for the short term. So he bugs me. And I thank God he did. And this is why, like, sometimes when I follow up with clients or with people that have reached out, it's because I literally am like, listen, you might need somebody to tell you 6, 7 times that you need help before you're ready. And that's okay. Cause I was there too,
Yeah.
because it's expensive. At the time I didn't have the money per se, to do training and to do all these tests. And my parents luckily helped me out and, put some money towards, doing these tests. If not, I was going to look into getting like a loan or something. Like at this point, I was like, I don't care what it takes. I need to figure out answers. So I did the stool test. And to kind of wrap this up, my chiropractor who I'd known for a long time, he goes, Shannon, I know you're an overachiever, and you want to be the best at everything. Well, congrats. This is the worst test I've literally ever seen in my life. And it makes so much sense why you're feeling the way you're feeling. And he went through and described everything that was off. And I get a little emotional thinking about this because at the time I was like, so I'm not crazy. Like there is something wrong. And I just didn't.
You felt like a sense of relief.
Yeah. You feel heard and like seen
Yeah.
for the first time. And like, I just remember like looking at this and thinking, oh my God, okay. Like, thank you for finding something. Like how many of you listening, like you go to the doctor and you hope they find something because you want them to find something because you feel so bad. And when they don't, you're like, okay, good. But like crap, like
Yeah.
what next? Right.
It's like, I hope it's nothing, but I hope there's something because I feel terrible. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So he put together essentially a supplement regimen for me. And I did that very religiously for 3 months. Within 6 weeks of starting this regimen, I dropped the cane. I didn't have to use the cane anymore. I was able to eat more foods. Now I will say I do keep a very restrictive diet for myself. I do like a modified autoimmune protocol, to keep my inflammation down. That's what works for me. Also, I didn't even get to this part of the story, but growing up, I had cystic acne.
Oh.
And so I was on antibiotics for about 5 years of my life every day.
Whoa.
And I was on Accutane and I was on spironolactone. And surprise, surprise, none of that. I mean, all of it worked to an extent, but I was probably on 8 different antibiotics because they stopped working.
Wow. So like it all like started to make sense, didn't it? Like once you started learning more about all of this stuff.
Exactly. I was like, well, that was a very, very much key element of this story because that shifted everything for me. Knowing what I know now was all those antibiotics growing up that just wrecked it. wrecked my flora. So I thought probiotics were the answer to it. And yeah, they helped a little me not be so constipated, but like it wasn't the end all be all. And then the Accutane, I'm sure, drove all this even worse, plus the Spiro and well, Spiro before. And so anyways, I saw an immediate difference. But it stopped being like I got better, but then there were still so many other gaps. Like my gut health was better, but my hormone stuff still was like not great. You know, I was still having some issues, you know, with the inflammation. And this is where I really like why I created the program I do now is because like he helped me so much, but all he could really provide was like, here is a sheet with the supplements and here's a
Yeah.
sheet with some food recommendations. But I still felt really lost. Like I needed somebody to help guide me because I still wasn't like great, but I was trying to, you know, work it out.
Yeah.
You know, at the time I didn't know I was severely undereating, like severely undereating and malabsorbing everything on top of that. So I needed
Just
somebody.
to just to clarify, like how
Yeah.
long would you say through this period of time, through like your symptoms getting worse, bodybuilding show, the 4 years of like figuring out what was going on and now healing your body, were you under eating that whole time, would you say?
Oh yeah, 100%. 100%. Yeah, I didn't know, right? Like,
Yeah.
which is
Looking back, you're like, wait.
because I'm in the freaking profession, right? Like I
Yeah.
like do this for a living. But again, it was very different. I was very much bodybuilding mentality, like
Yeah.
Walden Farm, zero cal, everything. Like,
Yes. It's
you
like
know,
low fat yogurt. Let's go.
I've always been lactose, but yes, it was everything like low cal. And
Yep.
I was scared of carbs, you know, but then I'd binge eat them. You know, it was just like, I didn't think I was under eating.
Mm,
I truly didn't because I was still eating a lot of food, but it wasn't what I needed because I was eating, you
mm.
know, I was working out so often. I was being so active throughout the day. But throughout the autoimmune experience and not being able to work out, I didn't trust my body. I didn't know what to,
Yeah.
and I was scared about putting on weight. You know, I was scared about losing my body composition. And so, you know, and plus everything I ate made me sick, right? So like, you know, it was double-edged sword. But like if somebody would have told me, like, Shannon, reverse diet, like this is what you need to do. I'd be like, you know, that you need to like work on getting your exercise down, like because I was so inflamed from any time I'd exercise. And
Yeah.
stress management, if somebody would have told me like stress management, the role it plays, I probably wouldn't have believed you, to be honest, but now I do. You know, and getting stressed down on my body was, you know, those were the things that were missing. So it's like you can't just do a supplement protocol because you will eventually reverse back into what happened before. Maybe not to the full extent, but you're not going to fully heal if you just like that's why a lot of our clients, I don't know if your clients like have come to you, they've been to functional doctors before and they're like, well, but like
Yeah.
it didn't help. And it's like, okay, but because you're not addressing your food quality, your food quantity, you're
Mhm.
not staying accountable to doing it. You don't have an exercise routine that's tailored to your unique body. You know,
And
it's
your
a
like stress availability, your like personal capacity is a really big thing that I talk about with my clients. Like, just as an example, kind of getting side note, but I think it's like an important thing to add in here. Like,
ah,
some people talk about, like, oh, HIIT is the answer to everything. It'll speed up your metabolism, it'll help you lose fat. It's amazing. And I'm like, yeah, HIIT for certain people in certain circumstances
yeah,
can be good. But if I'll be honest, most people, especially if they are struggling with losing fat, HIIT is not the answer for them because all that's going to do is put more stress on their body. And that goes with like so many other things that you're currently talking about. Like you were starving your body. That was putting more stress on your body. You were working out a ton. That's stress on your body. You were probably working a lot, stress in your body. So yeah, there was just an incredible amount of stress on your body and you just didn't see what it was doing, right?
nope. And if you would have told me, I mean, I can't, my mom was great, you know, she's always into the stuff and she's like, you need to de-stress. And I'm like, nah. Like I had bills to pay. I was doing really well at my job, but my job was requiring me to be on my feet 10, 12 hours a day training on the hour, you
Yep.
know, client, you know, and yeah, I didn't take it seriously. And actually the evolution of my business is I brought on an integrative health practitioner and she's also a breathwork specialist. And so
Mm.
I started having clients do breathwork sessions and we're actually building out, well, this is, nobody really knows this yet, but we're building out a whole nervous system course
Ooh.
because one of the biggest missing puzzle pieces for our clients is not that we have to change their macros around. It's not that we need a new supplement. It's not that we need to work out differently. Like a lot of times we figure that out on the front end because that's what people
Yeah.
think they need, right?
Yeah.
And it's really just to chill the F out. Like, but
Seriously. Oh my
don't know
gosh.
how. Like if you tell me, chill,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, okay, I'll take one day off. We have our clients like, with stress, you're like, okay, we're not gonna work out. We need to chill out. And they're like, but workouts are my stress reliever.
Yes, I've heard that so much.
Yes, I get that, but we have to find something else that is not a workout, like
Yeah.
because it's causing more stress on your body. I can't tell you, I had a client I just pulled all workout. It was a fight. I was like, just trust me. Just like you hired me for a reason. 2 weeks, she dropped 5 pounds. Like nothing else changed. But her body was just under a lot of stress. And I'll give you a quick story because again, people listening to your podcast are probably they're high achieving women, right? We
Yeah.
don't think we're stressed because we can handle it all, right? Like I'm fine. I can handle it. But like this was my breaking point, and I won't get too much into this, but I had a certain jab during 2020, and it caused my whole body to go back into horrific flares. I was in remission for a bit. I had healed a lot, and that set me back a ton where I couldn't walk again. And it was very triggering. 4 months of that. And I wanted to go to the Smoky Mountains. That was one of my bucket list items. And we had a trip planned for July 4th. This is 2021. And I was like, I'm not gonna be able to go. I can't walk. Like, and so I really tried to take my stress seriously. I was like, I've done the diet. I've done the workouts. I've done the reverse diet. I had reverse dieted. I had put on purposely 15 pounds, 20 pounds, and felt actually before the jab felt the best that I had felt in a really, really long time. So I was like, I've done the work. I feel good, but there's still like, I cannot get over this inflammation. All right, Shannon, you need to take stress seriously. You've been telling yourself, but you haven't done it because I had launched my business. I was busy. I was hiring people so I did, and I felt better. We went to the Smoky Mountains. In the Smoky Mountains, I did these badass hikes, and I felt the best I had felt in so long. I came back from that trip. I said, I'm getting off biologics. I'm done with all of this. I can heal my body naturally. I understand that stress is playing a bigger role than I think. And I did that. I got off all my drugs. I took stress management seriously. I have not gone back since. And, now I take it a lot more seriously, and because I understand, and sometimes we have to unfortunately live certain things like that to realize the impact that it has on our body. Right. But that was my little turning point moment. And it took me until 2021 to have that aha moment on that. Like, sometimes even like what people don't understand is even as professionals, we have these issues too. Like I have hired so many other coaches because we have blind spots, and when we're trying to train ourselves, so
Yeah, definitely.
yeah.
That's such an amazing story, honestly. I'd really love to go into kind of like where things are at now. A little bit on like the later side of things, not current, but a little bit on the later side of things. So you said had already started your own business. You were like pretty busy with that, stressed, hiring people to help you with that. But after like having this turning point that you just described, how did that change the way that you coach from how you coached before that turning point to now?
That was only one. I had a lot of turning point moments.
Yeah.
But I took nervous system regulation much more seriously. And it's honestly something I am still very much diving into. Like I am not a master in it by any means.
There's so much to learn. It's crazy.
There is. And, that's why I am huge on hiring out where I am not the best person, because everybody has their own specialties.
Expertise.
And
yeah.
I love lab testing, but my integrative health practitioner, she's absolutely amazing at our interpretation. And so I hire her out to do it. And I hire her out to do our breathwork stuff and our nervous system because she is better at it. No shame in that. I love that because I'm, can focus my zone of genius on other things. But
yeah.
But I started talking about it more with clients and really emphasizing it more. And a lot of our clients have been with us a while. And you usually won't understand at first. You want the macros, you want the weight loss, you want the fancy protocol. And that's great. I love giving my clients that, don't get me wrong. But at some point, like, if you don't take the other stuff seriously, you're going to start backpedaling. You're going to start understanding that more, And so I used to just be like, okay, let's do some breath work and here you go. Like, and then surprise, surprise, nobody would do it. So like, I started bringing in more, sessions. I started really emphasizing it more in check-ins. Sometimes for a client, I'd say I don't want any changes this week, except for you have to download, I'd give them a few apps like a tapping app or, breathwork app or Calm's a really big one. I was like, that's your only homework this week is you downloading listen to one thing on it, So I just started taking that more seriously. But like when I first started my business, I was always into what I'm in now, but I didn't stress the functional testing quite as much, versus now. Pretty much if I talk to a client right away on the front end and I'm like, listen, let's speed your healing process up and let's get this labs done right away instead of waiting months. I stress it a lot more now too, because I know I waited way too long to understand that on a much, much deeper level. So those are kind of the two biggest things.
And a lot of the clients that come to you specifically, their like symptoms have usually progressed like quite a bit. So you can already see all of those symptoms. So getting those labs, you're able to tie like the numbers on the labs to the symptoms pretty easily, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it's such a not a double-edged sword, because lab testing is always going to be good. And the worst that happens, is nothing shows up, which is like,
Yeah.
Nobody's ever been a clean bill. But if you go to just a functional health person or doctor, they're usually pushing tests right off the bat, and they're really expensive. Like, I don't push, like, we pretty much give them at cost for clients because I really truly want to make it more accessible as best I can to people. But like, they're just pushing thousands of dollars of tests and supplements right off the bat. But let's be real. How many of our clients just need to drink some more water? They need some electrolytes in that water. They need to eat protein. They need to stabilize their blood sugar. They need to de-stress. So it's like, we need to work on those basics first too.
Yeah.
So like, it really depends how far, like if people have really truly done all the things, then let's absolutely dive into the lab testing. But if you're symptomatic, like, with the hormone, the gut, like, and you've never like actually tracked your macros and have any idea how much protein you're having, if you're still eating a ton of processed foods, even if it's low cal, right? If you're stressed beyond belief, working out a ton, like, we need to just address that first. We need to balance your blood sugar and your cortisol, maybe give a few supplements to just help with gut, integrity, but we don't always have to push all those labs. And so what I like to do is see where they're at in their journey. And if I feel like we can kind of do it without the labs, we do that for a few months. And then most of the time they get better. Sometimes there's absolutely a gap where it's like, hey, we've gotten about 70% better. There's still this 30%, something's missing. Then we go do this, and then we dive into all that. So.
Okay. I'm glad that we were able to clarify that, because before you were like talking about how like, oh yeah, all of my clients, we like start out with labs. And I was like,
Oh no.
I mean, I was pretty sure that you would have like done it the way that you explained. So I wanted to like give you a chance to chat about it. And I also wanted to, see what you did too, because the biggest thing that I've learned is like lifestyle and like stress management and stuff like that is honestly like such a big part of it. And even just like getting labs when you're starting out, when you don't have a foundational like a healthy lifestyle, your sleep is terrible, you're not even drinking water, your blood sugar is super dysregulated because you're living off of like donuts for breakfast after coffee or something like that. Like getting labs done, honestly, like if you find something wrong, it's probably just because of how they're currently living. And if you want to see like something that could be deeper, you need to fix those first things, get those like foundational things done first, and then getting labs done to see if there's something more that they need to work on depending on what their symptoms look like.
Yeah. And, I think what people don't realize, because I have two sides of the spectrum, people that like don't want to do labs at all, which is totally fine, because they're like not really like, they don't believe in it, or they don't want to do supplements. And like, I get it. We try to keep as little supplements as we can and address
Yeah,
lifestyle first, but there's definitely some people that need a short bout of a
definitely.
lot of supplements, and then we can, take them away. I
Yeah.
know at one point I was on like 50, and now I take two. I take a prenatal and like a DHA, like, that's it. And I feel way better. But it took me a while to get there. I also
Yeah.
spent so much damn money on supplements that were
Oh
literally
my goodness.
like thousands. I was just like on Amazon. I'm like, this one looks good. Oh, it says good for inflammation. No, it's probably
Like, yeah.
supplements. But
Let's just like go into this real quick because like I know so many people who are thinking about going into a like healing their body type of journey. They have these symptoms, they're trying to improve them. They're going to these doctors, functional health doctors, nutritionists, or not nutritionists, what are they called? Nutrition, huh? Naturopaths? I think
oh,
naturopaths is the
naturopaths,
word
yeah,
that I'm looking for.
yeah.
Yeah. And pretty much all that they give you, and I have a big history with all of this stuff, what they would give me is just a ton of supplements, like hundreds and hundreds of dollars per month of supplements,
Yes.
nothing else. Maybe like, oh, get sleep in. Oh, maybe take an Epsom salt bath and that'll fix all your problems. And what you really discover is supplements are not the fix if your lifestyle sucks.
Absolutely.
Supplements are not going to they're not going to do anything if your lifestyle sucks. And I mean, I want to go into this because I see so many people making this mistake. Like, I'll have people who are like, oh, I want to heal my gut. They'll want to work with me or whatever. And they're like, actually, I'm going to go to a functional health doctor. The functional health doctor gives them loads of supplements. And I'm like, so how you feeling? They're like, I mean, I'm feeling a little bit better.
Yeah.
I'm like, did they like tell you to do anything else, like lifestyle wise, nutritional, like whatever? They're like, no, they just gave me some supplements. I'm like,
Mhm. Yep.
all right. Well, if you want to feel better, let me know. I'm here.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I was saying with my doctor. Like, I'm so appreciative for him because it did help. But like, there was a
Helps a
gap.
little bit. Yeah.
There was
Yeah.
a gap. And that's why I merge both things. That's why I
Yeah.
created, that's why I have my business, is because I like, oh my God, I was so frustrated with also so many different people telling me so many different things. And
Yeah.
so
They're
it's
like,
like,
have you tried probiotics? I've had someone send this to me. I was talking about how I'm working on healing my gut, and they're like, oh, this is a good probiotic you can use. I'm like, I'm literally a gut health coach. Like, why are you sitting here sending me probiotics?
I get that literally all the time. Or like,
Yeah.
when I literally could not walk and I was crippled, people are like, well, have you just tried yoga?
Like, oh,
So
that'll fix all your problems.
oh, okay. Well, right now I can't even bend down to put my shoes on, but like, yeah, yoga's going to solve my problem. It actually made it worse. I had to stop yoga. But that's just a great thing, is not everything's going to work for people. I'm a huge component of it, but like, didn't
Yeah.
work for my body. But yeah, there is a gap in the industry, and
Yeah.
people think that that's the only way. Like, you have to go to just your functional health doctor or your normal doctor or your dietitian or your personal trainer. And it's like, at least for me, like, I wanted everybody under the same roof, because it was like, our integrative health practitioner talks to our coaches, that talks to me, and we all make sure we're under the same plan, because one, it limits confusion, but two, the coach needs to understand where you are at mentally. And I can't stress this enough. If you are on a healing journey, whatever that looks like for you, or you need help, we have to make sure that you're really committed to this journey. And that committed
Mm.
is different for everybody, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't want somebody coming in who is so overwhelmed, they're in freeze mode in their nervous system. They are like, so defiant, not defiant, but like really think that their way is is the way. I can't put them on I mean, I can, a full, 90-day protocol that's incredibly restrictive. And that,
Yeah.
like, it's just, that's not where they're at right now. Like, that's okay. So we want to meet people where they're at in their journey, mentally and
Yeah.
physically. And, that's why so many people not fail, but don't get the success, is they just go to a doctor. They don't know how to hold themselves accountable. They slip back into old habits. Nobody's
Mm.
checking in on them and modifying protocols along the way. Or if they do, you have like one call with the doc and it's like 10 minutes and it's like, oh yeah, we'll just switch the supplement around, and it's so they don't really know what's going on. So that's what we do, right? We understand the client. We understand them from a mental health perspective. We understand their triggers, what they like, what they dislike, so that we can create protocols around it, so they stick with it. Because like,
Yeah.
I mean, how many of our clients have gone and like spent all this money and then they're like, they don't do it.
Yeah. Yep. That's such a big thing to talk about. I know like there's so many people who go to doctors and they don't doctors don't teach them how to implement them into their lifestyle. Like they literally will just give them like supplements, and if they do even give some like lifestyle tips, they don't actually tell them. They're just like sleep more, but they don't tell them how to sleep more, improve their sleep, or they tell them to eat better, eat more protein, but they don't teach them how. And there's I mean, again, there's a big gap in like that. Like, I don't know. There's a big gap in like actually helping people heal their body because they just don't know how.
Yeah. Well, and that's also where like hiring a coach is important because like,
Yeah.
I talk to my doctors, like I've been very gaslit by doctors and many of my clients have. It's not that we're anti-doctor by any means, like
Yeah.
don't misinterpret, but there is a zone of genius that they have and it's not
Yep.
nutrition.
Yep.
They usually have one, maybe two nutrition courses, and so like just like I'm not going to prescribe you medication, you know, for them to give you nutrition advice is not their genius. So how many of our
Yeah.
clients are like, or listening to this podcast where you're just like, yep, I was just told to eat more and or eat less and exercise more. And maybe, eat more protein, but like people don't even know what a protein is. Like they truly
Yeah.
don't understand. Like, and so
Like, should I
you
eat some cheese? Will I have enough protein in that?
yeah, peanut butter. I eat peanut butter. So like,
Peanut
it's fine,
butter. Yeah.
you know,
Cheese and peanut butter.
like, and so they're, they think they're doing all the right things. Right.
Yeah.
And, they're, you just don't understand. So you Google like protein, you're like, oh, well, yeah, I'm eating chicken. So like I'm eating enough protein. It's like they're eating like 30 grams a day, of protein. So, it's important to have somebody just oversight, your nutrition and your lifestyle, and really call out your blind spots that you don't realize are happening, because how many people come during a call and they're like, I know what to do. I just need to do it. It's like,
Yeah. Almost every single client I've gotten, like, ever since I've like really honed in on who my ideal client is, they're like, so I know what I need to do for the most part. I just like don't do it. So I need some help. Or they want like more of a specific plan because maybe they like kind of know what they need to do, but not exactly what they need to do. So like that's where coaches bridge that gap, with the accountability, with actually creating that strategy for you and actually like providing a plan that is tailored to what you specifically need. Because going back onto to what you were talking about earlier, like everything needs to be individualized to each person,
mhm.
right? Everyone has different, capacity for like the amount of stress that they have and what they can put onto their body. And everyone needs a different protocol, or they need to start in a different phase of a protocol, or start working on different things depending on what they're struggling with most to help them heal their body. It's not a one size fits all plan for everyone.
I got
So
you.
one all fits all. It's okay. Cool. Let me see here, kind of moving things along here. I'd like to dive into a little bit more of like education for individuals so that they're able to really understand things with your diagnosis and be able to understand things in themselves a little bit more. So, first thing I'd really like to dive into were what were the biggest things that you said led to the issues that you had? I know we're talking about stress, but you can really just dive into like, let's just say like the five biggest things that you were doing that either triggered or influenced the worsening of these symptoms.
For sure. Overtraining, absolutely. Under nourishing, under eating, 100%. And I know that I was also going through these periods of binge eating too. You know, that wasn't helping. um, Random supplements, I think were making it worse. But I was just doing whatever I could.
Mhm.
Um, Stress, 100%. And again, I don't think I would have listened to you like 10 years ago or 5 years, even probably 5 years ago to the extent I know now. I would have agreed with you, but not really like implemented anything. Like, you know.
Yeah.
So let's see, that's four. Um, Biggest mistakes. Food elimination. I eliminated everything to the point where I was only able to eat about 4 or 5 foods a day.
Girl.
And I just kept thinking that was the answer, to all of my gut issues and, hormone issues, I would add like, oh, well, this says don't eat this. So I would add it in or take it away or, and it got to a point where I couldn't eat anything and my mindset was so messed up. And I was so fearful of even adding anything new for fear that I would regress. And so, but that kept making me sicker because I wasn't getting like vital nutrients in. So yeah.
And what would you say were the biggest things that helped you heal your body the most looking back? And beyond just like, you got your functional lab testing done, you worked in some supplements. We already know those things. Let's say more so like lifestyle wise as well. Like what little tweaks did you make in your lifestyle and like your general health that seemed to help the most?
I really prioritize sleep, which like I like to think I always have, but I don't think to the same extent. Because I was just so tired all the time. So like I just thought that I was prioritizing sleep because I would just like pass out half the time, like on my kitchen table, like while eating dinner. Like more of a bedtime routine. I will say I'm not like great on this. Like I'm being transparent. Like I still look at my phone. I try not to. Like my morning routine's not great. Like so many people are into that right now. And like that wasn't my make or break, but I definitely like understood more the value of sleep and good quality sleep. And so I prioritize that. Obviously we talked about stress, like learning my triggers, setting boundaries was a really big one.
Yeah.
I still work on that so much. Like I am not perfect on this by any means. But saying no, putting my energy into things that excite me, taking negative energy, negative people out of my life that weren't serving me, really plays a huge role. Delegating for me, like it was hiring people to help was a big one because you cannot do it all. Like I know for some of you guys, like budget might be an issue, but like, can you hire a house cleaner once a week or once a month to help you? Can you, like for me, I had to hire, I have a nanny. Like I thought I could do it by myself with less time and only a nanny a few days. Nope. I'm investing in myself because when I have help, I am a better person. I am less stressed. Like I know not everybody can do that, right? Can you hire like a meal prep service like that cuts out even if it's one lunch a day, right? Like just find ways that you can help delegate. And if not, set better boundaries in your life and ask for help when you need it. Trusting. Like I didn't trust my body. I didn't think I could heal. And mentally, I think that really messed me up. It got to such a low point where I would just come home crying every single day that nobody saw, right? Like that's the thing too. Like I'm a positive person. I was always upbeat and I was teaching it like a bunch of stuff. Like nobody understood how much I was hurting and how I would come home and bawl every night because nobody, like I didn't, at some point I almost like, I never gave up, but I didn't know where to turn to. So like now I have a trust in my body again. Right. And that allowed me to heal. I believe that I can heal. And I think that's where a lot of people get stuck is they truly don't believe they can. But there's also nobody that's ever believed in them, to do it. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, obviously supplement stuff, like, yeah, that's cool. Eating enough, eating good quality food. I did switch to organic. I eat not 100%, but I eat mainly organic. I swapped out plastics for glass. That was a big thing, I'm sure. I did look at all of my cleaning products and I swapped those out. My makeup is still like a work in progress, but I don't wear it that often. So like, I'm okay if there's like when paraben and like my concealer, but like, I really dived into, I bought a reverse osmosis system for my water. And it's funny because all these little things, like, it's not like one day you swap to glass and you're like, oh, I feel so much better. Like it's not how it works, right? Or switch from plastic water bottles. Now I have, stainless steel, the RO water, it's all these small things that really just over time. I did buy a sauna. I know that's, expensive for a lot of people. I bought an infrared sauna for my house.
Bougie.
It is as absolutely bougie. But I needed something and I bought a really pretty one. like it's a horrible one because I was like, I need, like, it's very inviting. I want to go in it.
Yeah.
Like, it sounds silly, but it was like, I knew that's what I needed. And so, again, I know that's a big investment for some people. And so I prioritized financing that. And I did not go out to eat for a few months, like, and cut back spending on that. Like, that was important to me, right? Like, so many people think they don't have the money, but it's just you're spending money on things that don't matter. Like, or
My gosh,
don't
say it again.
afford. Like, it's, and don't get me wrong, because I didn't have the money when I first started this journey either. I started
Yeah.
with nothing. And I was like, I have a client right now that got a loan, like, literally, like, to work with us, because she's like, like, you are the answers. Like, and she has never felt better, like, and
Yeah.
she work, and so, but yeah, I'm just trying to, like, looking back, I haven't gone through this, thought about that in kind of a while, and just how many things I changed, but it wasn't all at one time. And I think this is what
Yeah.
you need to understand, right? It's like people
Yeah.
feel like they need to change everything all at once. They get overwhelmed and then they quit. And then nervous
Yes. Oh my
goes on
gosh.
overdrive and they go into freeze mode. Then they just procrastinate. And then they don't do anything.
Yeah.
And so it's like, this was, from truly my healing process of feeling better. I started swapping things around 2018, 2019, and I'm still swapping things out, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm still learning as I go, but, like, definitely food quality. I used to think I can't afford organic food. That's a lie. I didn't want to spend, $15 on a pound of, whatever beef, but, like, I make it work. The food quality was definitely a big one. I think didn't realize had such an impact. I stopped fearing carbs and calories. I eat more than I ever have. I cut back on supplements once I started feeling better. Once I did all the protocols, and yeah, I mean, little simple swaps, like I swapped out, like, my filter in my shower, and I added some dry brushing. And for some people, they really like the acupressure mat. Like, I haven't still gotten into that yet, but it's just like, you don't have to do everything all at once. Start with one thing.
Yeah. The little swaps that you've been talking about, like just to help people understand, like those little swaps that you're talking about making is to help improve like drainage and toxic or toxin elimination is pretty much what you've been talking about, like with, doing the reverse osmosis water, switching to organic, the shower filter and stuff like that. Pretty much like what you're talking about is that is reducing toxic load on your body because toxins can toxins come from like everywhere. And it's really important to make sure that your drainage is good. And the first step to helping your body improve drainage is reducing the toxic load, because like if you're constantly getting all of these toxins from everywhere, no matter how good your drainage is, it's just not going to keep up. So I just wanted to expand on like why these things, these little swaps that you were talking about and why you were talking about them, because that is definitely really important. But as you mentioned before, a really important thing for people to remember with all of these big changes that you said helped you heal your body, do not try to do everything at once. Like, seriously, don't even think about doing everything at once, because that will literally be worse for your health
Mhm.
than anything, right? What's really important is figuring out like what your biggest issue is and working on that first. So let's say like your nutrition is super terrible. Let's work on food quality, getting enough protein in, balancing your blood sugar, whatever like needs to be done for you specifically. And then you can move on to something else. You can, of course, like implement things, what is it, like synergistically? I think I said that word right. Like kind of like a few things at the same time, but definitely don't try to layer in everything at once. And if you're going to focus on anything first, sleep. I know
Yeah.
you mentioned that one first. Like sleep, my goodness. I am in a functional health like mentorship at the moment. Sleep and circadian rhythm was the first thing that they went over. They were like, look, sleep is literally the foundation to your health. If you don't have good sleep, it's really, really hard for these other things to actually, like these other habits to actually help your body heal, right?
Mhm.
So, anyways, I wanted to go over that real quick just to help people like after this podcast, after learning everything, these things that are like that you found to be really helpful for you. I just don't want anyone to be coming out of this podcast like overwhelmed with
Yeah.
like, oh, I need to do this, I need to do that. No. calm down.
No,
You only need to do one thing at once, and hiring a coach will definitely help with that too, because you'll get that support.
not only the support, I've had a coach like almost since I've started my business. Like, and one of the best things they do, which pisses me off, I'm not gonna lie, is tell me to don't do the things I want to do and don't keep driving ahead. Like, I can't tell you how many times I'm like, "Bloop, I'm gonna do all this, da da da," and they're like, no, you're not. Don't do that. Like, that's not important to you right now. What's the first thing that's your 5 foot view from you right now that we need to tackle? It's not this and that, and what if this happens, and what if that happens, and blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
It's just like telling you exactly what, like, this is what you need to do and nothing more. Just like focus, like, let's just focus on this one thing. And people are like, well, no, I'm failing if I can't do my macros perfect and my workouts perfect and my supplements. It's like, no, you're failing because you keep adding too much and you're not meeting your body where you're at. Like that is why you keep failing over and over and get sucked into this negative mindset. Right. And
Yeah.
so it's like, if somebody were, that's why I also said like, hey, listen, don't do all this, because I was the person, like, if I would have listened to a podcast, I'm like, oh my God, I have to implement all of this. And then you get
Yeah.
like this one moment of like gung
I'm the
ho,
same way too. That's why I said that.
right? Like, and you have this moment of like, oh, I'm gonna do it all. Yes, this is gonna be amazing. I'm so excited. And then
Yeah.
like 5 days later, you've like crashed and burned. And
Yep.
so if somebody were to listen to this and be like, well, I don't even know where to start, Shannon, you're like, it's just so much. Like, first thing is always look at your food quality. Like, yes, sleep, absolutely too. But like,
Yep. Yeah.
as somebody who has a 15-week-old baby, like, I can control it to only a certain extent. Like, some people might feel like they don't have that control. I always say control the things you can control. Like, I can control when I put him to bed to an extent. And what my environment looks like going to bed, how I wind down. But your food quality, like look at that. Like, how much crap are you eating in your food? Look at a label. Look at all the things that are in your food. Like, just start there and then start eliminating some high inflammatory foods, in your day. Focus more on getting protein, because that usually, unless you have like some real janky like digestive enzymes that can't break down protein, which is a whole nother topic, like, y'all need more protein. Don't tell me you're eating enough, because 99% of you are not. Look at those two things and trying to hit at least 8 to 10 glasses of water a day. Add in some electrolytes too, because I guarantee y'all are dehydrated cucumbers and will feel a lot better when you have some.
Even if you're not thirsty.
Oh God, yeah. I'm not tired. I'm not thirsty. I'm not hungry. It's like, no, your body is just turned off its natural signaling.
Yeah. You're living in fight or flight. You're living in survival mode right now.
Man, I should really create something on that, because like, I didn't know. I didn't think I was hungry or thirsty or tired. Like, I remember my client, I'll never forget, was my first client on an intake form. She goes, I'm the best 4-hour sleeper you're ever going to meet. I was like, no, we're not going to brag about that. Like, I was like, we need to fix this. And she's struggling with endometriosis and high stress and inflation, so.
Yeah. They're like, oh, I only need like 4 hours of sleep. I'm fine. It's like, no, you're not fine.
I used to think that too. I would pull all-nighters like a freaking champ. I was on 2 dance companies. I had 2 majors. I was top of my class. Like, I was like, I'm fine. It's like, look at what I'm achieving. Like, with all of this and little sleep, like,
yeah. Oh my goodness.
going out and drinking.
That's why for me, like with my clients, I emphasize stress first. Like for me, you seem to emphasize nutrition first. I emphasize not stress, sorry, sleep first, because sleep was such a big thing that I neglected in college. I actually have a bachelor's in kinesiology too, which is, through this whole podcast, I've been trying to like shut my mouth because we have such a similar story. I'm like, me too. What? Pretty much like I didn't really go to doctors too much, so like I don't really have that story side of things because I didn't have good insurance. But it's so interesting. Like we obviously have like different diagnoses too, but the symptoms show up so similarly, and the things to help them heal pretty much the same things. So
yeah. Well, I think the hard part is, and I want to take a few steps back, but like, don't wait till it's bad enough. Like, you might resonate with certain parts of my story, maybe not others, because I understand like my story is kind of dramatic. Like, so like, but
Mine's like a toned down
Yeah.
flag.
Yeah. I hope everybody's is like not my extent, right? But like, don't wait till it's bad, because I can't
Yeah.
tell you, it is so much more work and money and energy and effort to reverse it. And I like hearing some people on discovery calls talk, I'm like,
Mm,
you don't do anything now, where are you going to be a year from now, like in 2 years from now? And
seriously.
you don't do anything, and like, I hate to say this, but I'm like, you will be worse. You
Yeah.
like like, and then suddenly like what wasn't that bad is now bad, and it's now worse, and now suddenly you're having symptoms that are taking you out of work and that are taking you to
Yeah.
doctors. It starts with warning flags and warning signs, and until you address those, like, they don't magically go away just by, you know thinking that that's going to
Yep.
get better. Like,
Oh, it's
so
not going to get better. Nope.
no.
Yeah, that's so important. When you were talking about warning flags, so I've been working on healing my body as well. The past few years, a lot of things, pretty much like the same things that you've talked about. A lot of like regulating my nervous system, working on stress management, improving my nutrition quality and stuff like that. I had to stop working out as much because I trained a ton as well. I was an in-person personal trainer. Like our stories are freaking crazy similar. It's weird. Um, but a really big thing that I discovered looking back on my story was I was not listening to my body's warning signs. I was having these symptoms for so many years. I thought I was healthy. I was the most athletic version of myself. I
Yeah.
looked extremely healthy. I had, well, to normal people because I had a six pack, but I
Yeah.
wasn't like bodybuilding stage six pack. It was like, it looked like it was a more healthy six pack. I was working out regularly. I was eating healthy food, but it wasn't enough. I was drinking water. I was doing the things, but I was doing too much, not sleeping enough, incredibly overstressing my body, and pain started to develop, right? And I know pain is a really common thing in you. And going back to what I was talking about, red flags, I guess red flags, but warning signs that my body was giving me, pain started to develop. And then it just got worse. And
Mhm.
it got so bad. Same with you. Like I could barely walk. I could barely put like my socks on. And I still wasn't listening to my body at all. I
Yep.
would I was like, training helps my body feel better. So I'm still going to lift super heavy. So I feel better when I'm training, that I feel worse afterwards. It was a roller coaster ride, let me tell you. But please, if your body is giving you, like talking to the people who are listening to this podcast, if your body is giving you any of these warning signs, if you're noticing weird pains, injuries, weird injuries, if you're noticing like no hunger, a ton of hunger, like you're not waking up rested, even like little things like that, maybe you have a hard time concentrating. This is your body telling you that something is wrong. And if you don't change something now, it's going to get worse. And the more that you live like this, the longer and the harder it's going to take to heal, and the more money you're going to have to spend.
100%. I think the hard part is we don't know what to look for, and we override these symptoms because they're normal to us. Like,
Yeah.
if you're used to having 5 cups of coffee in the morning, like that's normal. Like, you feel fine because you're running on
Yep.
adrenaline and, caffeine, right? If you always are bloated after a meal, you're just like, well, that's normal. Like,
Yep.
I always bloat. I always have to unbutton my pants after a dinner, that's just who I am, right? Or I always
I always
wake up.
have to bring an extra baggy t-shirt just in case.
Yeah, I exactly. But it's, same with tired, like, oh, well, I always midday crash. That's normal. I always take a nap in the middle of the day. I've always been that way.
Yeah.
And it's tough because it's when so many clients come to us, it's like they realize, like, wait a minute, this isn't normal. Like, it's not normal to feel like this. But I didn't know anything was off, right?
Yeah.
And that's why I think it's so important, like, podcasts like this, or, just our social media is bringing awareness to all this stuff that's like, oh, wait, that's not normal? Like, huh? Because like so many people are just like, I don't know, especially women, it's like, oh, well, you don't have your period either? Oh, me either. Oh, your periods are super painful? Mine too. Like, that's normal. They've been like that my whole life. Oh, you bloat
Yeah.
really bad after meal? Me too. And it's like,
And doctors also tell them that that's normal
yeah,
too.
oh, I
No hate
can't.
on doctors, but
No, yeah.
they
It's like, oh,
they say that to people.
Yeah. Oh, it's normal to bloat sometimes. Just have
Yeah.
more fiber.
Yeah.
Or, it's normal to feel achy. So many of our clients do. It's like, oh, you're a mom. That's why you're tired and achy. You're getting older is the biggest one I hear. Oh, you're just getting older. That's why you're putting on the weight. That's why you're feeling achy. Your weight gain out of nowhere. Nothing's changed. Just getting older. And so it's like, then it makes you feel like you can't change. It makes you
Hmm.
feel like this is just the way it's going to be your whole life. And you start giving up,
Yeah.
because it's like, well, I'm not getting any younger. So I guess like I'm screwed from here. Like, so
Yeah. Exactly. Dude, this was such an awesome conversation. I can't believe I don't even know how long it's been. 80 minutes?
yeah.
So 80. Um, Dude, I don't even know like how to end this out. That was such a good conversation. I guess like ending things out for people who if they learn about your story, they've seen like the biggest things that had led to your issues, signs and symptoms to look out for, to notice if your body is having issues, and then the biggest things that have helped you heal your body. Just to reiterate with like what helped heal her body, as we were talking about, like everything is different, like people need different things, so keep that in mind. We also do work with doctors as well when needed. Like, definitely don't discredit your doctor through all of this, please. But also understand that they're not like, what is it? I don't know what the word is
All
I'm
be
looking
all.
for.
They're
Huh?
not you're not their end all be all. Like you usually
Yeah.
do something in addition. Yeah.
Yeah. You want to use something in addition.
Root
But
cause. They don't focus on root cause. They focus.
yes. Yeah. If you're like in critical condition, please go to them. If you're like on medication or like whatever, we still work with the doctors. I just want to reiterate like through this because I don't want people to like hate their doctors or think that they're like not helpful, right? Because I know some people can like think into things. So I want to just give that little disclaimer real quick.
Mhm.
But with all of that being said, if you could give some advice to anyone dealing with gut, hormone, inflammation issues, what would you say?
Don't give up. Um, you know, invest in yourself. I know I'm not even trying to be like salesy, like, oh, I'm a coach, hire me. I'm not. It's just like I could have saved myself a lot of trauma, a lot of pain, a lot of years of my life, and a lot of productivity if I had just invested earlier on and not been so stubborn thinking I can do it on my own. um,
Yeah.
you know, if one thing doesn't work, don't give up. If you go to one doctor and they don't help you, go to another one. If you think functional medicine is your godsend and you go to a functional medicine doctor and you don't feel better and they're not your end all be all, find another one. If you find a personal trainer and they've burned you in the past, or a dietitian, and you've not gotten better, it doesn't mean they don't work. You just have to find the right fit. And it
Hmm.
might take a few weeks, it might take a few months, it might take a few years to find that fit. But if you give up on yourself, you'll never get better. And so, start small, don't overwhelm yourself. But like, I think one of my biggest things is like, there is hope. I know it feels at the moment that maybe there isn't, and you're just going to be the way that you have always been. That's just not the case. There is something to help you. You just have to find the right fit, and you have to be willing and open. I think that's another thing. Like, you can't just hire people. And if you're not willing to put in the work and you're not open to change, I think you have to open your heart and your mind to different modalities that are maybe different than what you thought. But ultimately, there's something out there that's going to help you. So
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. Awesome. Well, thank you for coming on the podcast today, Shannon. This was a amazing chat, and I know that so many people are going to get so much value out of this podcast, because it really will just help them become aware of what's going on. So I'm really happy that we've been able to share your story with more people because it's a really truly impactful story. Um, that's it. That's it.
well, cool. Well, I enjoyed popping on here, sharing it. And if anybody has any questions, or truly, like, if you want to find me, like, I'm on like Shannon Salge
Oh
Fitness is
yeah.
right now, but
Yeah, I'll put her Instagram down below, you guys. Don't worry.
I'm going to be changing it actually.
Well, let me know then.
So like, yeah, I'm going through a whole like rebrand with everything. I'm so excited for it. But anyways, but like not even like me trying to like popping your DMs and tell you, I truly like if you're struggling with something like this or an autoimmune disease and like reach out to me. Like I can't tell you, I love connecting with other people because like I didn't have anybody. Like and like you go on Facebook and you go on Instagram and you find other stories and they're really depressing and like not super hopeful. And so like if somebody feels like that, like just shoot me a message. Like I want to connect. I know this can feel like a lonely journey and a helpless journey, and it doesn't have to. So hopefully this enlightens some of you guys, and you feel a little bit more hopeful coming out of it. So
I love it. Awesome. Well, I'll put her links down below. You'll be able to check her out on Instagram. But I hope you guys have a wonderful day. I hope you guys got a ton of value out of this podcast. And we'll be chatting soon, Shannon.
yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome. Have a wonderful day. Bye. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Relentless Pursuit podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow for more. If you have a question, feel free to shoot me a DM on my Instagram at Rachel's Fitness LLC with 2 A's. Until next time, be relentless.